Global civil society and its sustainability. Before entering in the topic, we need to understand what is basically civil society. Civil society, if we could see, it's deeply rooted in our tradition. In Indian tradition, when we have started the exchange system, when we have various group has been started. One set of group who used to do agriculture, one set of group who used to do the carpentry work, one set of group who used to be barber. So a various kind of category wise group has been formed, and those has been trained generation by generation or many ways in the various field of activities. Accordingly, this could be called as a civil society of various activity base. But the term has been coined, the present used term, the civil society has been coined by Cicero and other Romans and Greek philosophers. In modern political philosophy, it emerged along with the rise of capitalism and liberal political thoughts. When the capitalist societies has been enhanced and when the capitalist society try to capture the whole society system in terms of governance, in terms of people's movement, in terms of people's choice, behavior, identity, everything. In that time, there was a need arises of the such kind of civil society which is run and managed by the society themselves in the various fields. And also, civil society came in picture to counter the capitalism in terms of ideology, in terms of thought of various persons, various individuals, and in a group of wholesome of some society. So this civil society system or civil society concept, though was a traditional system in a different form, in a group of agriculture, group of farmer, group of carpenter, group of barber, group of other activities of livelihood, fisheries are kind of this. But this concept has newly came in this to counter basically the capitalist. And capitalists in the 18th century, the notion of civil society was primarily understood as a political society by thinkers like Hobbes and Locke, and used to describe it as a sphere of sphere of social activity and distinguished from the state. And it is a different identity or different set of choice or different set of group, a set of people are acting beyond the state. The concept of civil society has been defined by many scholars in various ways. Hobbes has defined it as a creation and the application of force by the state to uphold the contract and so forth. So state has created some civil society, some cultural institution, some social institution, some religious institution, some faith and belief institutions, some artist group, some singers or some sports activity group. So those are the state created by some group known as a civil society, and they stimulate or support the government to run the state in a various way for the development of the society. So basically, Hobbes has coined this term in this way. But same time, the Locke says it has a two dimension. The first, it provides redress and security and against anarchy. Suppose a government is a very dominating, a police department is very dominating and exploiting the people. Then a civil society will be created over there, and civil society and a group of people will protest against the injustice happening to them in terms of legal, in terms of movement, in terms of any kind of exploitation, injustice or whatever is happening. And other, he says, कि through the devolution of legislative power in collective bodies of men, call them Senate or Parliament gives them security against the arbitration of the government. So, through the Parliament or through the judicial system, created such kind of body who looks into the any injustice or anything is happening in between them. Suppose like an Human Rights Commission or other global organizations has been created in this way. So looks has basically defined in a better way and it has accepted worldwide. Now we are entering to what is global civil society. The global civil society emerged as an aspect of globalization. In the globalized era, Marie Kaldors defined global civil society is about civilization or democratizing globalization, about the process through which groups, movement and individuals somewhat can demand a global rule, global justice, global equality, global empowerment, global development. So a global society has been emerged to demand such kind of situation and things. It can be further extended, the global civil society, as the sphere of ideas, sphere of values and sphere of networks and individuals located primarily outside the institutional complex of family, market and the state and the beyond confines of a national societies, politics and economies. So those create a group of global society, those can raise in terms of society, in terms of economy, in terms of political. The participation of global civil society and their values are, at least in part, located in some transnational arena and not bound or limited by nation states or local societies. So that's the basically effect of globalization and it has. If you enter in detail in this, the global society ecosystem can be characterized as a complex and interconnected network of individuals and groups, drawn rich histories of associational relationship and interactions. The global civil society ecosystem can be characterized as a complex and interconnected network of individuals and groups drawn from rich histories of associational relationship and interaction. So, globally the concept of civil society has evolved from these associational platforms to comprise a wide range of organized and organic group of different forms, size and functions. So, it has a different kind of number, size in terms of different kinds of forms, activity-based forms, right-based forms, cultural identity-based forms, and functions. Some of the global society functions on the legal aspect. Some of the global society are functions in terms of movement, identical crisis situations, and other things. The most commonly used definition was created by Civicus, which conceives of civil society as the arena outside the family, the state and the market, which is created by individual and collective actions, organizations and institutions to advance shared interest. So every individual some individuals has a common interest or share interest. In some institution have a common interest. Suppose we are documenting some educational things. So many educational institutions need such kind of documentation for the educational upliftment. So these are called common interest, common share or common things. So there it is basically the existence of global civil society come into the picture. Now it consists of NGOs, faith-based organization, basically the religious or pre-process organizations, community-based organization, and have a organized structure and mission and are typically registered entities and groups. So if you could see the faith-based organization, the Gurudwara, They have a huge langar and other things. Many temples where there is a prasadam distributed by the purohits and community for the large number of devotees. There are many other occasions for the NGO, suppose sewerage system, drainage system, community-based NGOs for the social upliftment, for the women empowerment, for the poverty eradication, for the education for all. Such kind of NGOs and situation has been created by the different civil society organizations. In addition to that, there are online group and activities, including social media communities that can be organized but do not necessarily have a physical, legal or financial structure. So two set of organization where the social set of organizations, those are not legal entity and those need not to register, but it has a huge voice in the present technological era. And another set of organization which are legal entity, registered bodies, but presence in a larger volume are little invisible in comparison to social media or social platform. In social media and this physical existence of NGO or civil societies together can make a social movements of collective actions and or identity, which can be online or physical anyway. In addition to that, there are another civil organization such like as labor unions. Various labors has been gathered together on their working area, working culture, working field basis, and they form the unions for this move, for the fulfill their demands, for their arguments, for their identities. And in addition to that, there is another social entrepreneur employing innovative and or market oriented approaches for social and environmental outcomes. Now we need to understand what is nature of global civil society. The global civil society has started to promote a truly democratic and participatory public sphere at the global level. In this sense, it has become a global public sphere, comprising active citizenship, growing self-organization outside formal political geographies. So those are not involved in direct politics, those are not involved in any other kind of activity, but beyond the family, a group of people has been formed to raise their voice. Basically, the active citizens. Those don't want to be in politics, they may not be in academician, they may not be in the prominent persons of the society, but they can form. Global civil society is also considered a realm of socio-political activity. It's a social, political and cultural activity center also come out as a. In the sphere of globalization, the same thing become the global civil society. And the characteristics are same. It has a economical, financial, technological, social, cultural and political sphere on the terms of interconnectedness, interactions, interdependence, integration across border, state and communities in a various sphere. The main element here are capitalism. In interstate system, militarism and industrialism, each one of these have a separate role in the creation of global world. So when the individuals has the capacity in term of military, in term of civil, in term of political, has a capacity, and as a group also it can make a voice through the global civil society state. And there is another concept that global civil society and nation state. If you could see the sets of widely divergent views in this regard, it is held that there is happening end of nation state, the decrease or demoralize or finish the nation state. Suppose any kind of nation or state is finished. Erosion, weakening of the nation state. Next is forced retreat of the welfare state, not the state as such. Adaptation, mutation of the nation state, and neoliberalization of globalization. Imperialism and developed capitalism state over the rest. Neither weakening or end of the nation state, and the state is both victim and facilitator of globalization. If we see that global civil society and nation state, the concept of nation state in the Indian context, we could see, or India like as countries, such like as developing countries or underdeveloping countries or underdeveloped countries. So in these countries, if you could see the spec on this nation state or global civil society parameters, it's a dominance of capitalist society. Indian society is not basically a capitalist society. So capitalist society, those are developed countries, they basically dominate in terms of culture, in terms of political, with the power of economy. So when there is a borderless or there is a no nationhood developed among the country, then economy can be spread to other country. But as a country, when we think, what is the quantity we export and what are the quantity we import in our country, it matters, because the whole country is suffering in terms of poverty, in terms of better livelihood opportunity, better education facilities, better quality status in their life, a healthy status of their health status and all, a lifestyle change. Compared to developed country, it is very lack in these terms. But the developed country wanted to capture the resources, basically the human resources, to streamline the economic resources towards them. And that's why here it contradict in terms of India, in terms of developing country, in terms of underdeveloped countries. So this is the conflict between the poor and the rich. Now we need to understand the global civil society and how different it is. There are two types of global society. There is a reformist and the radicals. The reformist has a three types, that is consultative or collaborative type, oppositional type, and reactive type. The reformist basically want to collaborate or coordinate with partnership approach with the various capitalist, anti-national, nationalist, all collaborate, and for the reformation of the state or reformation of the statehood or country, it collaborate for the purpose. Oppositional type. It's a kind of revolt against the statehood, revolt against the government institution, or kind of anarchism creation to fulfill the demands of the society. So this is a oppositional type of civil society. And reactive type of civil society, global civil society. Those are basically the militant nationalist and religious fundamentalist. Those basically, to fulfill their demand, use the weapons or a military attack with the various community, various institution, in the terms of jihad, in terms of religion, in terms of their cultural identity. So these are basically reactive type of global civil society. That has also explained. In terms of India, we have seen that Kashmir, the many years, the people of the Kashmir has suffered due to such kind of militants. Those are attack to the normal civilians. They hamper the development of the state. They hamper the progress, education, social movements of the society. Another way, there is a radicals. These are basically three components we could see. The one is left oriented. Another is non-left orientation. Those are not the left mindset or for the development. And there is another Indian concept which is developed by Deen Dayal Upadhyay, that is integral humanism. So non-left is basically people-centered and left is basically ultimately for socialism. And integral humanism is basically integrated socialism, where neither the left or capitalist society, it has to be integrated the society with the capitalist society for the development of the last man is the real picture of integral humanism, which is basically a Indian concept which is practiced by 1,000 years, which was documented by Sri Dindayal Upadhyay, and that's why if you could see the present government of India has formed that Antodaya Yojana. It's how to reach the last man by providing food, by providing shelter, by providing education or other basic needs. In terms of left, you could see it's a anti-capitalism globalization. It has a pro-nation but short term. Whereas non-left type, it's a pro-nation but in a long term. Stateless and classless society, and non-left, it's a pro-nation kind of society. So there are various definition and various types of global society. Global civil society has been formed and it is working for the transformative forums. Now the question arises about the sustainability of global civil societies. If we could see the ecosystem of global civil society, it's organized and organic. Organized in terms of structure and system, and organic in terms of interest and urgency. If two things are solid, then there is a space of civic space. There is a space of legal and regulatory policies. There is a space of foreign policy. And it is interlinked, if we could see civic spaces, it is interlinked with the governance and leadership. If a civil society ecosystem has good organized and good organic and has a leverage of governance and leadership, it creates a civic space where people can put their voices and can sustain for the thousands and thousands years. Another way, if civil society or ecosystem are completely dependent on resources, it has no space on the society. It is a very short-term process of a civil society or ecosystem of the society, which get collapsed in an immediate run. And when it is interlinked with the intervention, scalability and replicability, it has a legal and regulatory policies. Suppose such policies which can help people for 1,000 years, which can change the people's perspective, people's attitude, people's behavior, then such kind of situations are there, which is intervention, scalability and replicability, has a legal and regulatory policies. And third is, that is relevance, legitimacy and accountability, if I had to say, then it impact on the foreign policy. And this has an important role in the global politics. Global eco-politics is basically formulated by the relevance, legitimacy and accountability. If we could see the last 8-9 years, the India's movement is basically triggering this relevance and legitimacy and accountability to the global world to establish in the geopolitics scenario. Now, it has a sustainability factor, absolutely. The sustainability factors of a civil society we could analyze, but there is a practical other kind of civil society which is at the nation level, which is at the state level, which is at the regional level. Now, how to survive or how to sustainable this civil society? So, there is a two major factor, primarily for the sustainability of the social change, and that is project initialization and project outcome. What project they have formulated and what is the outcome of the project by the civil society or the NGOs. And the primarily another thing is primarily for the sustainability of the NGO is organizational system, how the structure is the organized, and the fundraising capacity or the fundraising system of the organization. If we need to analyze it in detail, It basically the 4 sustainability factors. If we could see the local NGO, regional NGO, state NGO and the national level NGOs, those are fighting for the survive in the society. It has a 4 component, how they are project initializing and the measures they have taken. If they have taken the measure, ensure necessary paperwork, preparation work, decision criteria have established. If they have a better communication, feedback regarding decisions of the project, team, partners and beneficiary, then that is called better communication. And the outcome, that is learning, adjust project preparation, requirements and education for the project proposals. So if they have a correct measure, correct communication and correct learning from the project initialization, then the sustainability factors of a civil society enhance at a level. And the second is project result. If the ensure project supervision, screening and analysis are perfect and the communication on the feedback of the project. If something is learning, it has to again enter in the same input level and correct themselves continuously through the feedback system, continuous a cyclic basis feedback system. And if it is exhaustive and if it is beneficiary oriented, then there is a better communication of. And learning, adjust project execution, extension of the project, approaches, additional project types. Again, this project result is monitored in these 3 parameters, then automatically there is a sustainability factors enhance. And third is organizational system. So for the sustainability, again the measures, communication and the learnings. In the organization system, what are the measures is required? First and foremost is access project portfolio. Project portfolio is transparent. It is available in website, notice board or other places. Ensure financial statement. Financial statements are published through audited, through charter accounted, through other audit agencies. It has been published in a proper forum. And managerial accounting. Every day or month end or quarter end, the managerial accounting system has to be updated and properly maintained. So these measures are enhance the sustainability of a civil organization. And another is communication. Inform the employees, volunteers, board members and stakeholders about the various processes. This is proper communication. And learn, engage in additional project types, adjust human resources and infrastructure. This is also important. And the fourth is fundraising. So generally most of the organizations are concentrated on the fundraising, civil society, but thing is that there is a need of proper measure and it is evaluate fundraising activities and donor behavior. Because donor behavior continuously changing. In that circumstance, if the civil society are able to cope up with the changing behavior of the donor, then they will survive or sustain for the long term. Inform employees, volunteers, beneficiaries about the donor, about the fundraising, what fund they have raised and what purpose they are using, what is their outcome expected from this fund utilization. This, if they are communicated properly to the employee, to the beneficiary, to the volunteers and including the donors, then the sustainability factors increase. And learning, adjust donor portfolio. Whenever the donor portfolio changes, the organization or the civil society had to adjust with this situation. Guidelines for marketing, activities, new projects or even for new strategies. So these are the parameters which enhance the sustainability of a organization. Now in concluding remark, we can say the relationship between donor and particularly civil society in the global south needs to shift in order to guarantee its sustainability. Guarantee in terms of sustainability, it leads to basically the development sustainability. The sustainable development. We have started the movement from the growth to the development towards the sustainable development. So a civil society when it started its movement, or activity. It's completely maybe economic growth, enhancement of education, enhancement of health, like that. But it has to be in a social dimension, has to be added to the growth. So holistic development has to take place. And once the holistic development has take place among the community, it has to be the sustainable development. Means we are thinking for the future development also. The utilization of resources in such a way that it cannot be exploitation in part or exploitation in nature. So this way global civil society can sustain for the longer run. Civil society relationship with donor are ad hoc, short term and project based rather than formalized and long term. So if we want a long-term relationship, a long-term donor, then we have to formalize a long-term plan and the short-term activities. The long-term plan is also enhance the sustainability factors of the global civil societies and the state or local civil societies. Therefore, it is imperative for the civil society, particularly in the global south, to shift focus and strengthen their ability to mobilize resources from their own domestic constituencies and reduce the excessive dependency on foreign donors. This new narrative would be a complete departure from approach civil society has pursued since the past Cold War era. So in this situation, coping up with the new system and contribution from the society, it could lead to the sustainability of a global and the local civil societies.